This is an important request I need to make very clear. Please do not send this developer any hate. Alright, let's get into it. Sometimes Twitter delivers you an absolute gem, and every other tweet is ragebait, vague posting, or grok, is this true? God, why do I still use this site? You may have seen a viral trend on Twitter where developers would say, my game is good, the algorithm just ignores me. And to be honest, I like this trend. I found some absolute bangers that had genuinely struggled to reach its desired audience. That was until I saw Toon Souls. I had seen this particularly janky art style before, the UI, and even the animation of the character itself. Because a year and a half ago, this developer was featured in the first video of my series, The Worst of Steam, where we pick up negatively reviewed games, have a bit of a giggle, but also give them a fair shake. So, let's see why this developer believes he needs to break out of the algorithm.
Perfection.
On the surface, it's a game that's trying to emulate Cuphead, but does a poor job in doing so. The backgrounds lack charm, the character animations are choppy at best. I mean, in order to throw his weapon, it looks like this dude's jacking somebody off. And even this trailer shows you that you face unavoidable damage in this section. No hit speedrunners? I'm sorry boys, this one's not it. Now look, if this was all there was to the story, we wouldn't be here. But there's so much to unpack, from theft, to AI, to shitposting, and even downright re-releasing the same game and asking for more money. This shit is wild. So let's start from the beginning. What is Toon Souls? A game is considered shovelware when a few criteria are met. The game was released hastily, the developer prioritizes quantity over quality, and the intention is to gain money from fans, regardless of if the experience they have is good or bad. Now, I know some of you might say, well, that's just the AAA industry, but the developers of those games often have good intentions. Shovelware is careless and soulless production from top to bottom. But like, why the name shovelware? This term came about in the 90s, when we switched from floppy disks to CD-ROMs. CD's nuts had leaps and bounds more space available. Back in my day when I was playing Earthworm Jim on a floppy disk, that bad boy could fit a solid 1 megabyte. Yes, you heard me right. 1 megabyte. CDs could push up to 600 megabytes, which allowed developers to push the medium further. For example, The Seventh Guest actually used live action in the game. So developers took advantage of this by shoveling as many of their games onto a single CD and advertised them based on how many games were stored. In a lot of gaming discussions, all roads lead to Concord, but at least those developers probably cared, right? But how is Toon Souls relevant to this? To illustrate my point, we need to play their games, and unfortunately fork out a whopping £179.17 for their entire catalogue. Yeah, each of this developer's games cost £15.49. So I'm expecting some quality and hours of gameplay. But boys, if you appreciate my dedication to this deep dive, hit that subscribe button. I want to catch up on my main channel, and hey, if my content becomes boring down the line, you can unsubscribe. I won't hold it against you. Their first game was released in January of 2020 and unfortunately didn't perform well. It's racked up a lifetime of 6 reviews, 5 of them being negative, and playing this game, this was not surprising. My first problem is that we have an isometric game that's angled at about 45 degrees, so north is actually our northwest. However, firing the gun, we're able to fire up, down, left and right and diagonally, but we must move our character in that direction to do it. Not ideal, but not the end of the world. Clearing out the first 2 rooms was straightforward until we got to room 3. I don't know if I want to. I've been playing for 2 minutes. I can't just sack it off in 2 minutes. Oh, man. In this game, you only have 1 life. There's no way to gain extra health, and the enemy variety is severely lacking. Some rooms can have you fighting over 10 enemies at once, and some of them being ranged. Though, I did find a way to cheese the game. Wait, hang on. What's just stopping me from running through? This is better. Oh, fuck. Okay, I gotta try and dodge these guys. Oh, my God. Those jello guys. If I could dodge those jello guys, we're kind of good. The slime.
Did I just hear the Minecraft oof?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Do you think this dev maybe never learned how to code like a health bar? What do you guys think? Oh, new enemy. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You expect me to get through that and a single hit kills you? I'm surprised I made it as far as I did.
And that's all there is to the game. There's no story, no bosses, nothing of substance. It'll surprise you to know that I was able to stomach this game for 7 whole minutes. But it was their first game. Everyone has to start somewhere. So, what did they do next? Well, they changed everything. We have more cartoony graphics, similar to Cuphead's, but not really the gameplay of Cuphead. Not yet, anyway. The menu system in the game is the exact same, but with a different lick of paint. I mean, if it works, right? The game has this little animation sequence and, well, I guess it paints the picture. In Biscuits, we have platforms with enemies on, and we need to kill them to progress to the next level. The animations are okay, they just feel a bit stunted. But this is a big improvement from his last game. It didn't take me long to kill all the enemies. Now to find out what was on room 2.
1 health or faster attack. I'll take health.
And what we get is the same level, just with a different amount of enemies on it, and a new enemy, a floating eyeball. You may notice that there's 2 of me on the screen, and that's because I accidentally hit my controller and spawned in a co-op partner. Either way, I smashed through the enemies, hoping that we'd get something different on the next level. But you guessed it, boys. It was the same level, just with a little bit of variation in it.
22 enemies.
Once again, the enemies pose no challenge because they don't actually try to kill you. I was hoping, though, that room 4 would have something different about it. It didn't. The room just looked slightly different.
Just killed myself? Oh, fucking tits. And what was if I retry? Is this... Oh, room 1. Oh, man.
Despite that little setback, this is all there is to the game. No bosses, no weapon changes. It's the Mushroom Forest all the way. Now, at this point, I can imagine you're like, I don't understand what this developer did to earn so much hatred. Well... So far, you've seen Inferno with an extra F, and Biscuits with an extra T. These are distinctly different games, but also where the developer stops trying. Biscuits was not worth £15.49. In fact, it's extremely hard to justify a price tag at all. But it gets worse, because in just 2 months, our developer drops another game on November 26th, Biscuits 3. Now before you ask what happened to Biscuits 2, he's got you, boys. He released that a month later in December. Doing a bit more digging on SteamDB, we can see that it released on August 28th, roughly 3 weeks after Biscuits 1. But I learned this a bit later. So let's start with Biscuits 3. First things first, we actually just get a reused intro from Biscuits 1. This is a dungeon crawler. You move from room to room, killing enemies that don't fight back or chase you, and some rooms straight up give you chests to power up your weapon.
Faster, walk faster!
Usually when describing a game, I would now go on to the bosses you face and the roguelike elements when you die. But that's where Biscuit 3 ends. You kill enemies, you find power-ups, and that's it. I got all the way to room 25 just to be sure, nothing happens. And this game is priced at £15.49. Moving on to Biscuits 2. Starting the game, we have the same UI and are also given the mushroom cutscene. We take recycling seriously around here, boys. But we do get a new style of game. This is a Jump King clone. However, to critique this game, it's hard to describe what jumping feels like. First, to jump anywhere, you have to hold down the button for significantly longer than Jump King, and it never feels like a nice middle ground. The best way I can describe it is with a graph. In Jump King, you get a feel for the jump, and gradually holding it longer feels like it has more effect. But we don't have that with Biscuits 2. It feels like short hold durations get us nowhere, but anything slightly longer than that, suddenly we're rocketing into the air. And holding anywhere between half a second to a full second has no discernible difference. Not only that, but if you use a joystick, you can actually change the angle of the jump, which sounds great, but that level of precision only works when the developer has a solid idea for level design. This one does not. If you've ever played Jump King, you know that a large portion of your jumping is simply figuring out where the intended place is to stand and then doing a fully held jump. Not to mention, the early portion of the game is quite simple. In fact, looking for other gameplays on YouTube, only one of them managed to get as high as I did and immediately failed like I did. Now let's talk about where things get real lazy and undoubtedly a cash grab. 2 months later, our dev releases Cyberpunch. We've now gone back to their old style of art, and this is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Once again, we have a similar UI, and pressing start caused the game to freeze. So, loading it back up, we got in this time. The first frustration of this game is that your enemy must precisely be on the same vertical plane as you. Remember, if you remove the background, we are just characters moving up, down, left, and right on the screen. So, one of the biggest issues is that I would punch an enemy beside me and nothing would happen, only for that enemy to move up and punch me. And to be even more specific, I want you to take note of this section. We reach the end of the screen and are ambushed by a lot of enemies. I was never able to beat this, but I want you to keep it in mind. Our dev then goes on hiatus for 9 months. Now, usually you wouldn't say this is a long time to go away for a developer, but for this one, it's long. So they must be cooking up something big. And something big they were. Biscuits 4. This was going to be the triumphant sequel to the series. Something new to wait, it's the same fucking game. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but you can see the character animations are the same. Except they've made it way harder. Due to our character not having a weapon, they significantly dropped the attack radius to fit the length of our arm. Remember I told you to remember that segment? Well, here's the payoff. It is the same section. When you reach the end, you are ambushed, and once again, I could not beat it. Our developer had released Cyberpunch for a whopping £19.49, just to come back 9 months later with a new baby and ask us for £15.49 for the same game in a new skin. But guys, it gets worse. It gets so much worse from here. In February 2022, we get a brand new series, Animatics. Except it's still the same art style, but we get new characters and brand new enemies in the form of spiders. In fact, in Animatics, I saw hope. Our first level has us taking on some centaur boss, and we need to shoot him whilst jumping over stone wheels. This could potentially be the first time we actually encounter level ideas, and maybe even some story. Look, I'd take anything at this point. If the game could do more than just repeat one idea infinitely, it's an improvement. But we were asking for too much. Firstly, our guy reuses the animations from Biscuits. If I slow it down, you can see that the frames match up. He's just changed the artwork a little for the new character. To be honest though, it's his art. If he wants to reuse it, it's not a crime. It just shows we're getting fed the same shit. During the level, we also get these stone wheels that pass by. But they're a huge problem. They can come in sizes small, medium, and large, and their speed ranges from slow, normal, and fast. Due to the random nature of these wheels, they can present themselves as an impossible obstacle. If you receive a slow-moving stone followed by a fast one at the perfect timing, you can end up with an unavoidable obstacle. I'm not joking, look at some of these. These are Geometry Dash levels of precision, but completely random, so you'll never be able to learn them. But it also gets worse. You're gonna hear this a lot, because it does. You see, if you quit back to the menu and press play again, you will never see that boss ever again. The only way to see him is to uninstall the game, reinstall it, and play it for the first time. But now with this new level, it's just another recycled Biscuits 1 level. But now the platforms scroll downwards, and our enemies are cartoony spiders. Okay, fair enough. However, our dude can only throw his balls left and right, and you'll encounter spiders that zip down from above you. If you can't get away from them in time and throw a ball sideways, you're dead. And if you do avoid them, guess what? They then approach from below you. Either way, Animatics was no new brave direction for the dev. It was another quick cash grab. But it gets worse. 3 days later, he releases Animatics 2. And this game is just a carbon copy of Biscuits 4, which is a carbon copy of Cyberpunch. And yet again, we have the end wall section where you get ganged up on and die. All for the premium price of £15.49. I really don't need to walk you through this game. Our character punches, air kicks, the enemies punch, you have 1 HP. You get it. And this cycle continues. Animatics 3 gets released a month later and it's once again a Jump King clone. Same animations, different character. But what's worse is it's brutally harder. After just 5 jumps, your next 4 platforms have tiny standing areas, and slopes go on each side to make sure you are sent back down if you're even a pixel off. And I think this is intentional because I don't see anywhere to go after this jump. I'd say try it yourself to see if there's anything after this, but this game is once again £15.49. But we're not done yet. 1 month later, we return to the Biscuits universe for the 5th installment, and we actually get something brand new. Something that surprised me. We get a 3D game. Kinda. But the art style definitely works for this. Here we have rooms where we must shoot mushrooms in order to progress to the next one. Wait, this is just Biscuits 3 from a first-person perspective. But what's worse is that there's two guns, slow and hard hitting, or fast and weaker. In similar fashion, you have 1 HP, and if you die, you restart the game. But there's actually a second way to lose and start over, and you'll never guess it. Just watch. Really soak this one in, boys.
Nice. Room 2? Room 1. That's literally just the game. You just do room 1 over and over. Fucking hell. 7 minutes of playtime, boys. This one was actually a little bit more promising than the rest. What I'm learning is that the dev just doesn't add anything. He just makes a concept, does a single level, goes, job done. Hey, £20 by the way.
And that's exactly what he kept doing. Next month, we get another release in the form of Animatics 4. Damn, did we get here quickly. And this game is a clone of Bennett Foddy's Getting Over It. But once again, the developer makes this game insanely hard to begin with. First, we need to climb this giant train's head. Honestly, this is such a monumental task as your first obstacle, and I genuinely have to question whether the dev even attempted to play his own game. Despite that, by furiously spinning my mouse, I was able to get over it. But our second hurdle is yet again, pain. We are faced with a wall with 3 branches sticking out, each branch progressively further out than the last one. I tried my best with this, I really did. In fact, I got so close to getting up onto the 3rd branch, but I had to throw in the towel. God help us if we did get past this. The 3rd obstacle would have been insane. And what's even crazier is that the dev actually did show himself playing this game on his Twitter. And even though he got a little bit further than me, he achieved it by spinning his mouse like I did on the first obstacle. And no, he couldn't even beat the game doing that. But what came next is a genuine surprise. They released Pinball Toon, which is the only game they've released to get positive reviews. That was until I read them. Just to go through a few, I need new haters because old ones have become fans. The game is good, the algorithm just ignores it. Game solved every issue and flaw in my life. Best experience of my fucking life. Now, I'll be honest, of the games released so far, this one kinda does what it says on the tin. You play pinball, and you have to kill every enemy in this tower. There's even a boss at the top, which I have to say has way too much HP, considering he just sits there waiting to die. I couldn't complete the first level due to those moments you get when the ball hits an enemy and falls directly down the center, and I'll be honest, I'm not good at pinball anyway. And if I had to guess, boys, this is probably the entire game. If you beat all the enemies, you probably just restart again. Now to the final game, Toon, which released in May 2024 to mostly negative reviews. As you can see, their last game released 2 years ago, but we'll get to that. Toon, despite not being part of the Biscuits or Animatics universe, still uses the mushroom opening sequence. Here we basically have Biscuits 5 again, just with different enemies and guns. We have the hard-hitting revolver and the fast-shooting minigun. Sounds familiar, right? Now, looking at the store page, the game looks quite expansive, but we were never able to get there. You see, the game crashes a lot starting, and once I beat the first level, I was unable to select an upgrade. Nothing I did could fix it, so that's it. Wicked. I don't like accusing things of AI, but it doesn't take a genius to notice that the characters are distinctly different from the backgrounds. But that is not a solid indicator that someone is using AI. Artists can dabble in multiple styles and have been doing so for centuries. But with a developer that has pumped out games month after month, it's a good place to start looking. What particularly tips me off about the backgrounds is that in Toon Souls, our developer likes his skulls. He places them everywhere. Yet, why are the environmental skulls drawn in his distinct character art style and not consistent with the background itself? So let's try it. Let's screenshot these backgrounds, avoiding the skulls, and feed them into an AI image detector. Although I must say, boys, these are not fantastic indicators. They can often claim human art is AI art and also claim that AI art is human. Things get messy when AI art has signs of human touch-ups, so this is why we're avoiding the skulls. So I fed the 7 images through an AI detector, and that website was pretty confident that these were AI backgrounds. Is that definitive proof? No. But I haven't been truthful with you guys. I know for a fact that they're AI because the developer discussed using AI in a now deleted tweet and YouTube community post. Credit to Extra Dubbin and yeah, because I wouldn't have been able to find these without their videos. Going through the community posts on YouTube, it's apparent that they try to pass off sketches as their own. But boys, I know an AI sketch when I've seen one. And would you believe it? It's AI. And let's be honest guys, I don't really need to convince you. Just look at these images. We've all seen what AI can output, and this is exactly that. Would it surprise you if I told you that our dev has stolen ideas? There's a line between inspiration and just stealing someone's idea. While Animatics is a Cuphead clone, it's still unique characters fighting unique enemies that I'm aware of. But what if I told you that Toon Souls doesn't have a unique idea? Look at this scene in the trailer. It's quite an interesting boss fight. You're running from a rolling ball of skulls, and when you fire your gun, it loops back to hit it, all while you avoid enemies. Except this idea was stolen from a YouTuber. And no, not a YouTuber's game, a YouTuber's fan animation. Studio 64-Bits created a Dark Souls Cuphead animation that honestly looks sick. Genuinely, go watch the video. I'm only going to show the relevant part, and that's this. Look familiar though, boys? I mean, what can you say? He didn't even try to hide it. And that's not the end of it, because Toon Souls tried to recreate the book opening that was displayed at the start of the animation. I can imagine if you looked hard enough, you'd find more instances in more places, but for now, we'll move on. So let's step back a bit to where things hit the fan for this developer. October 31st, 2025. He posted, "My game is good, the algorithm just ignores me," to which they were universally met with disagreement. They say all publicity is good publicity, and this developer absolutely rolled with it. First thing I have to mention, they post on Twitter multiple times a day, without fail, every single day. But following the infamous post, they began shitposting like fuck. I gotta say, their Twitter is a goldmine. Consider me charmed. But there were a few posts that had me absolutely tickled. Like this post on January 5th, where they announced retirement. I went straight back to posting. And this one on January 14th, where he says, digital games should cost less than physical games, while asking you for £20 for slop. Or this post on January 3rd, where he said, stop using AI for everything. And then the following day, posted AI sketches. Bro, you can't make this shit up. In fact, on his original post, somebody clocked him for using AI to potentially make the characters in the game. So now I don't even know. Now I genuinely don't even know where we're at with the AI. I assumed that every character he made was drawn by him. But then the unthinkable happens, boys. He accidentally deletes Toon Souls. But then 2 days later starts posting about how Toon Souls might become the new biggest horror mascot. He then also asks for people to start supporting Toon Souls and to buy his games, and then goes straight back into shit posting. Then on February 3rd, he posts that he's given up. You can't recover the game, and it is done. And then goes straight back into advertising the game. But it's okay, boys, because in just 2 weeks, he's completely rebuilt the game from scratch, and it looks the exact same. And then goes back to shit posting. And then my favorite post of all time, nobody asked for this game, but fuck it, I'm making it anyway. And that's where we're at with Toon Souls. Now to go into something a bit heavier. In December, he mentioned that he comes from a poor background and struggles for basic needs. He made games to help him and his mother have a better life, but she passed away before Toon Souls was finished. Since he shitposts a lot, I'm unsure when it comes to his posts, but I'm gonna assume this is true. So, Mr. John Toon Souls, I will play Toon Souls when it's ready, and we will treat it like any other game. I hope that it's more than just a single level, and I hope he removes the AI elements, though I'm doubtful. I won't be refunding the games, despite them being very wank cash grabs. I'm earning money on this video via his janky games, so I believe it's fair. Like I said in the intro, do not send hate to this developer. It's not the end of the world for a developer to make an objectively bad game, or many bad games. So if you enjoyed this deep dive, let me know. It was fun making it, and I'll see you in the next video.